Hey everyone, Nate the Feral Painter here and welcome to this tutorial of the Black Templars. This is probably one of my most requested videos. Every video that I put out, it's somewhere in the comment section of please do Black Templars. So we've finally got round to making it. You'll probably notice as well in the painting portion of this video that things are a little bit closer, a little bit more zoomed in, and that's just because I've upgraded my camera lens and this allows me to get nice, tight and close so you can see all the fine details that I'm painting on the miniature. So to build this Black Templar, it was a kit bash, and I've used one of these Stern Guard veteran squads, and I've just added some little parts to it. I think I got a sword from the new Blood Angels upgrade kit and just snipped some little bits off and added some chains. The moment of oaths that I've added, I know a lot of people ask how do I make them, and this is just cheesecloth and then cut to size and glued on. And then I also added some candles with a little bit of UV resin for the drips. So the first thing we need to do is prime our miniature in black, and you can literally use whatever black you like. I've recently picked up this Mr. Hobby Mr. Finishing Surface primer, and it's an absolute beast of a primer. But if you're not into, this is a lacquer primer, and it does smell quite bad, so if you've not got good ventilation and stuff, I probably won't recommend getting this one. But literally any rattle can, any airbrush primer, as long as it's black, will do for this tutorial. I would also recommend during the build phase to leave your shoulder pauldrons off, as these need to be white and we can airbrush these separately without getting any overspray. But the first colour that we're going to come in with through an airbrush is Citadel's Corvus Black, and this was just sprayed from a zenithal top-down motion. Obviously it's not going to make a massive difference to the actual colour of the black, but it just adds a subtle hint of like a bluish tint, but it'll also highlight some of the armour as well. And then on top of that I mixed in a tiny little bit of Eshin Grey, so to get that perfect mix for the second highlight, just do 50-50 of the Corvus Black and Eshin Grey, and again from that top down zenithal motion, just paying attention to some of the brighter areas, we're going to apply that, and that is pretty much our black done. If you're going to be army painting these, then Citadel do offer some rattle can alternatives, so you could just prime in the black that they do and then rattle can from a zenithal from above in the, I think it's Raven Black or Corvus Black alternatives from Colourforge. For the shoulder pauldrons, to give them a little bit of depth and shadow, I gave them a coat of Steinelres Grey Primer, and then again from a top-down zenithal, I gave them a coat of Steinelres White Primer. At this point as well, it's a good idea to put any decals on, or if you've got the shoulder pauldrons alternatives, which you've got them actually like moulded into the shoulder pauldron, then just go in there and paint them black as well before we move on to the next stages. If you like to go for the decal option like myself, once these have dried and set, I get my scalpel and just go in there and very lightly scratch and put some little scratches and dints and pull some little bits away to act as some weathering. And at this stage, your miniature is ready for the rest of the base coats. That's the black armour done and your shoulder pauldrons. Now we'll move on to painting his capes or his tabards, and for this we're going to use three colours. This is AK Dark Brown, AK Decomposed Flesh and Vallejo Game Colour Bone White, and these are the three colours that we're going to use, and with each successive layer and highlight that we go up, we're going to start to introduce those colours, each one step by step. So we give it a base coat of the dark brown, then I add a little bit of the decomposed flesh to the brown itself, so it's sort of mixed 50-50. Then I move on to the actual decomposed flesh itself, then add a little bit of the bone white, and then finally the bone white on its own. Now this will just ensure that we get some nice transitions as we go up our highlights, but we want to thin these a little bit with water on our wet palette, and we're going to apply this in the messiest, sketchiest style that you can do. So you can't really go wrong with it, and it's good for practicing brush control, but you just really want to apply it sketchy, messy, and with each layer that we go up, it's fine if it's a little bit see-through, you can just go over it with an additional layer, and this will give the cloth that tattered and worn appearance. Also, whilst you've got the decomposed flesh out, I go in there and paint out all my moment of oaths. So we're going to base coat all the moment of oaths in the decomposed flesh, and these will be highlighted in AK Deck Tan. . Now we're going to move on to some metallics, and the first thing we want to do is add some weathering / pre-chipping, and for this we're going to use Citadel's Iron Warriors. This is a nice dark silver, so it's not going to be too obvious or too punchy on the actual armour itself, and a little bit of sponge chipping goes a long way. You just load it up on your sponge, dab the majority of it off on some cloth, and then just work your way around the miniature, adding some chips and dinks to the armour, and these will become a little bit apparent later on when you get to the weathering, and pay attention to areas that would naturally get more damaged. Also, whilst we've got the Iron Warriors out, we're going to base coat out the rest of the silver metallic areas. And again, I'm just doing this in a haphazard way, like a sloppy dry brushing method. But then for those silver parts, not the chipping, just for these silver parts like the gun and the sword and his chains, we're going to highlight those in Citadel's Runfang Steel. And the highlights for these are actually dry brushed on, as I really like the look of dry brushed metallics onto my silver areas, and this will also speed up the process if you're doing some army painting. All of his belts, straps and leather areas and pouches, these were given a base coat of Citadel's Rhinox hide, and then I mixed it 50-50 with Scrag Brown, and just in that haphazard way, scratchy method, highlighted all the leather pouches, and then just for some of the extreme highlights or some of the areas that I really want to pop, I just gave them a final highlight of Scrag Brown. For the red areas, especially the gun, this was again done in this was just done stippling, because we've got that metallic through and I wanted to add some chipping to it rather than paint it red and then add the chipping. I just came in there with AK burnt red and just stippled this on, just being again really messy. Don't really worry about being neat or anything at this stage, because you can always go back in and paint it silver if you do make any mistakes. And then they were given a final highlight of Mephiston red. All the golden bronzy trim areas, these were given a base coat of Pro Acryl Bronze. This is a really nice dark warm bronzy colour, but it actually leans more into the gold spectrum. And then as a highlight on that, I mixed in 50-50 with Army Painter's Fanatic Paints Metallic True Brass, and just dry brush this onto the metallic areas. And at this point, all your base coats are done, everything is painted out and ready to move on to our weathering stage to really make this model lean into the Grimdark aesthetic. The first stage of weathering that we're going to apply to this miniature is a unifying wash of Villainy Inks Goon's Grime. This is an enamel based paint, and we're going to apply it to all the areas except the black armour. So stay away from the black armour areas. It's fine if you do go onto them, as grime is naturally going to accumulate on some of the black armour, and you'll see a little bit earlier on that I did apply some around the feet, and this is just because, you know, around the feet areas, that's where grime's going to be as he's walking through whichever terrain he's going through. You're going to get a natural build-up of grime in those areas as well. And I apply this with a brush and I thin it 1-to-1 with mineral spirits. And then I give it around 10 to 15 minutes to dry, and you can use a blow dry to speed up this process. And then we're going to come in, as I always explain on this channel, with the removal phase with a sponge or a Q-tip just dipped in mineral spirits, and this allows you to pull the enamel back off and just manipulate that enamel to all the areas that you wish to add it to or take it off. So I'm not repeating myself in a lot of my videos doing the same process. If you do want to learn more about these enamels and the ways that you can use them, especially this reductive technique that I'm talking about, Dark Ages Workshop explained this amazingly over at the Grimdark Compendium, and I will leave a link to this in the description below. Now once all that is dry, we can move on to weathering the black armour itself, and for this I'm going to use Villainy Inks Sector Rust in combination with Villainy Inks Ex Machina. These two rust colours will work fantastic on this miniature, and because I'm applying it 1-to-1, this is going to act more like a filter, which I think will contrast really nice against that black armour. I'm not going for a fully rusted look at this stage, we're just slightly filtering and adding some little variations of rust here and there around the armour and silver metallic areas itself. And I'm almost doing it in a pin washing motion, so I'm just getting a little bit loaded up on my brush and just letting it flow into those recesses, and what it'll do, it'll start to pool and run out, and that's where you get that nice feathering of your rust. Again, I come in with the removal pass, and if you want to get a brush and just manipulate it, if it's a little bit too strong for you, you can always take it back down or add more to get that more rusted effect. And as a final step of weathering, just to darken areas up and make them look a little bit more grimy, especially areas like the shoulder blade and some of the metallic areas and the lower half of the cloths, I'm going to come in with Villainy Inks Decrepit Filth. This is a fantastic enamel wash that I use on a lot, probably 90% of my miniatures, to add some further contrast, separate those panel lines. But here we're just going to add it as a little bit of panel lining and to create some shadows on the metallic areas. But areas like down onto the bottom of his robes and his shoulder pauldrons, this is just going to act as an additional weathering step of grime. I do use the Villainy inks in 99% of my videos, so if you want to learn more about them, then please check out the rest of my videos, or alternatively you can head over to the Grimdark Compendium's YouTube and website to check them out for yourselves. And if you do want to grab some or any of the products that you've seen in this video, then I do have affiliate links in the description below, and it just helps me get a little kickback from that, and it just helps me to keep producing the content for this channel. The lenses for this miniature, I pretty much did them in the Games Workshop style, which was a base coat of AK Burnt Red, given a highlight right near the tip, near where his nose would be, of Mephiston Red, followed by some Evil Sun Scarlet, and then finally Wild Rider Red, and that little white dot that they put in the opposite end of the corner. The only thing I've done different to mine is, as you can see on the lower half of his eye, where his mouth guard is, I've just added a little rim, which is going to be like the glow and the OSL effect from the lenses glowing themselves. And the last thing to do is the candles, paint the candles and the candle drips, and I do explain this in my Blood Angels video and how you can streak them to give them that real dripping wax effects. So make sure after this video that you do head over to that and check it out if you want to learn the recipe for the actual candles themselves. And that brings us to the end of this tutorial of the Black Templars. I hope you've enjoyed it, I hope you've learned something from it. I know a lot of you have been asking for this video, and I do have 100 and different ways to paint black armor, and I'm sure in the future, as I do want to do a video just without using airbrushes or anything like that, I'm going to do another black armor recipe just using dry brushing and stippling and showing you how you can highlight them up even further. Also, I did do some more Grimdark rusty chaosy black armor, so if you want to go out and check that different black armor recipe, then head over to the video in the link in the description below to check that one out as well. Again, I'd like to thank you all for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know if the new lenses helped a little bit, if you can see a little bit clearer, if everything's looking a little bit sharper. Let me know what you think. Also, I'm nearly at 30,000 subscribers, which is, oh my god, it's just mind-blowing, and I'm going to be doing a massive 30k giveaway, so to be in a chance to win that, make sure you are a subscriber, and it would really help me push out and grow and get it to 40,000 when we're going to do a 40k giveaway and get out there even further. And all you can do by that and simply hit that like button. So thanks for watching this video, guys, and until next time, I will catch you in my next video.